Hey Steve, this is Jacob over in support. Here's what I came up with for that transaction you're talking about. So what I did is I made this a report headline. Obviously I don't have any information on your borrower or their mortgage, so I kind of used some sample information here. In the goals section, it really doesn't matter what you choose as long as you don't choose purchase a new home, because you do want to display a current mortgage. And then make sure and enter the current property value. Now when you get to the current mortgage, just enter it as you normally would. So I've created one here that, a few years old, about 6 years old here, and I put it at a 5% rate, so it's got a remaining balance of $100,000. Put in my taxes and insurance here. And then what I did here for the savings balance, I actually subtracted the 50 grand from it already, because there's really no way to make Edge account for that 50 grand that's got to come out of pocket in order to buy down this mortgage. So what I did is I pulled it out at first, and then I actually put it back in when we get to the analysis screen. So I'll show you that when we get there. But what I did is I reduced that 157 that she started with, or she or he, I'm sorry, I don't know if your borrower's male or female, but I reduced the initial savings balance by the amount of the pay down, and then I put in an interest rate for that. Of course, you'll want to put in the appropriate interest rate here. And then when we get to the first product, what I did is I used the copy from button, and I copied the current mortgage. And then all I did was reduce the remaining balance by 50 grand. So they had a $100,000 balance, I reduced it by 50 grand, they've now got a 50 grand balance. Now this is still an existing mortgage, so we couldn't put anything in the closing costs to indicate that $50,000 pay down, because closing costs don't show up on an existing mortgage. So that's why I worked around it by using the analysis screen. So I left the closing costs empty. I did copy it so the taxes and insurance came over. Now my next product here is just a standard refi. We're going to refi for the full amount, the $100,000 at the new rate we can get them right now. Going to enter the closing costs that are associated with this loan, and then taxes and insurance. So here's where the whole thing happens. When we get to the analysis screen, we go to the Adjust Reinvestment Strategy button. Now you can see on the current mortgage, what I did is we've got that $107,000. It's growing at 1% because that's what I indicated. But I accounted for keeping the 50 grand in there by doing it as an investment at the same rate. So basically this is a 157 at 1%. So you can see our total down here at the 24-year point is just about $200,000. Now in the cash pay down one, what I did is I had already reduced the current balance by 50 grand, so I didn't put that 50 grand down here in the investment balance, so they don't have it. They still have the 107 because that's what they would have left in that investment, and that's going to continue to grow, and you can see what that's doing. They've got an accumulation of 136 at this point. Now for the refi 30 fixed, what I did is we're saving them $138 a month on the mortgage payment by doing the refi. So I reinvested this $138 straight back into the mortgage as a principal reduction payment. That carried their new freedom point below where they're at right now. Now this is a good thing because this is actually going to add to their equity and add to their net worth over time. Now I started with the 107 here, and you can see that it subtracts the cash to close, and these are just the closing costs. And they've got a new adjusted savings start of 102. That's going to continue growing at 1%, but they've also still got that extra 50 in there. So I left that in there over here. So they've got 152 left after cash to close. That's growing at 1. And you can see we get to about 193, just short of 194 for our total accumulation. Now here's where you're going to need to explain this to your borrower. Now you can see that what I did here is I used, for the short and long term, I used the full term for all loans. All of them are going to be paid off before 24 years, so I want to get a global picture of each scenario. So I put 24 years in this one, 24 years in here. Now what that shows us is that with the cash pay down versus their current, they'd save $60,000 in interest. Now it's costing them $50,000 to pay it down too. So we account for that by showing the net worth. Now the net worth is a total of their accumulated assets and their equity at this point. So you can see that if they just continue doing what they're doing right now, they're going to have a net worth at the end of the term of $606,000. Of course, the loan is paid off, so they've got the full equity at whatever your appreciation rate is. And then they've got whatever liquid asset is left in that 401k. Now in the cash pay down, this one indicates that they've taken that $50,000, paid down the loan. Now their net worth is a little bit lower here because they've got more equity but less money in that investment account. So you can see where we are at the end of it. They're about $60,000 behind by doing this. So even though they're saving $60,000 in interest by paying it down, it's costing them $60,000 in net worth. So it's basically a wash here. Now for the refi 30 fixed, same concept actually. We're saving $25,000 in interest savings over the life of the loan as opposed to their current situation. But look at the net worth. The net worth is pretty much the same here. So the real story of this one is we're going to have about $25,000 in savings. The refi would be the best option here, but that's based on the assumptions that I made. Remember, I made an assumption that we're only getting 1% on this 401k loan. So that's across the board, I'm using 1% here. So if they're getting a better return than that, you might find that your numbers are a little bit different when you get in your report. But hope this helps you. This is probably the only way I can think of to show this comparison against each other. There is one other alternative you can do is rather than putting this 138 back into a principal reduction payment, you can funnel it straight back into that investment account if they'll let her make additional monthly contributions. And you can see that once we do that, we go back, our net worth is a little bit higher now, so we actually do gain some net worth here, but check out our interest savings. It's a little bit lower because we're not making that additional principal payment. So it's kind of a wash on which direction it goes. So again, the real crux of this is what kind of a return are they getting on their current 401k, and how's that going to relate to what their net worth is in the long term. So hopefully this helps, Steve. Let me know if you have any further questions. I'd be happy to give a little bit more detail on this. I will send you the finished link on this so you can play around with it and check it out. Let me know if I can help. Thanks a lot, Steve. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.